Good morning, good morning. Welcome to 4x8 Paper Stuff. This is Beth. We are doing our Crown Jewel Journal. The world is your oyster. Put on a crown. Let's get started. Good morning, good morning. Yep, already. Today is our last day in our Crown Jewels Journal. And I need to stipulate a couple things. My only goal with these journals is a couple: art therapy, and fun. And if I'm not doing any of that, I don't call the journal successful. There are days when I'm not happy with the way things turn out, but in the overall scheme of things, because I usually have a whole journal of stuff put together, I'm good with it by the end. And I'm only saying that because I've had a request completely honored that you think I can do this. And I don't mean to be negative at all. I was like, you want me to do what? I'm like, no, I'm not good at any of that. That somebody asked me if I had thought, I guess, in a way that suggested to me, have you thought about getting a Facebook group together and we could all do our journals together? I used to say this all the time, but then I got ridiculed politely, kindly, that I used to say, I don't teach because I don't know what I'm doing. I do feel like I have a better grasp on some of the stuff that I do repeatedly, but I don't. This is fun. And if I start doing Facebook groups and this and that and this and that, it's no longer fun. It's more like a job. Number two, I would never, ever go on Facebook. I don't think I need to tell you why, but I would never go on Facebook. So you are more than welcome, and I'm honored, more than welcome to get out your journal every day with me and do stuff. More than honored. But I'm not going to have a controlled group. We meet on Tuesdays and we do this and we do that. I'm sorry. That's just not me. And I know my limits. I would not be good at it. It would be too much pressure. And I don't want to take away the fun aspect and the therapy aspect of this for me, selfishly. And the only reason I film what I'm doing here is because that is therapeutic for me also. The keeping up with technology, as little technology as I know, is therapy. The creativeness in the video, believe it or not, there is some, is therapy. The comments that I get every day from you guys is therapeutic. I've had a couple negative ones along the way because I've been doing this since 2017. I know, it's silly. But they are few and far between. And when they come, I delete them and I try to put it out of my mind within 24 hours. It takes a couple days, a couple hours, but I try to put it out of my mind. And realizing that that is somebody that doesn't have to speak to me face to face and see how little short of a person I am and have no power and I'm just having fun. And they don't know who I am from Adam. Most of them, they're just sending out comments. So it doesn't bother me too badly. But this is only therapy and fun for me. I enjoy your comments. I enjoy reading them every day. I try to reply that day. If you put a comment on a week later, I'm not going to see it because I don't curate my comments like that. But so you're more than welcome to join me, do whatever you want to do. Hey, watch it 3 times and say, oh, she put a line here. Oh, she put a, or just use the same concept that I'm using and go for it. But I'm not going to ever have a controlled group of we meet on Tuesday afternoons and we're going to do this. That's just not me. Thank you that you think I could handle that, but I can't mentally and emotionally. Or aren't those the same things? I don't know. Anyhow, okay, so this is our last day. I had to say that because I was trying to make my comment and my response yesterday polite, honored, but heck no. Heck no. And I don't know if I came across that way. I hope I did, because that was my intention. Thank you for your faith in me to do something like that. No, not going to do it. Sorry. But you're more than welcome to sit down here and get a book, and right here it's on the cover, and do some funky stuff on the back with circles, and go for it. This idea I'm getting from Gainer Paddle. This is not a new idea, a sketchbook. I just was influenced by the way she does hers, and the way she talks to hers, and the way she writes notes to herself or to the paper or to the paintbrush or whatever in hers. And there's a combination of all kinds of stuff in here. There's planning. There's Ali Edwards. There's planning. This started out as something else. I changed it to Basquiat. I got another thought process in my head. Halloween, Christmas, Study in Scarlet. This is my evolution of my October Daily went many directions. And I finally got it. Watching PBS art podcasts. I love that. The fire on the clouds on the horizon as the sun comes up was magical. Hello. It's kind of like Hobonichi meets paintbrush meets planning, but it's different than my Hobonichi. I glued some paper in here that I loved. And then I have kind of like a reason why, because I love that. And then I have it when I finished it. I got this in August of 24. I have finished it in February of 2025. So we're going to put that here. This is something I did not do. In fact, I might have a whole month of videos of me trying to figure out what day I did journals and archive them. Because somebody asked me, how do I archive them? I'm like, huh? I'm getting better at now doing that. I tried to put on the spine of my Hobonichi, which luckily Hobonichi does a lot of that stuff for you. What I did. But I'm trying to put dates and everything. So, I'm off my soapbox of Facebook groups and my sketchbook. All right, so we are doing, this is our last, if you watched my video yesterday, you saw that this is going to be my last one. But first, let's do a flip through. Because once I start painting this, I have a feeling this is all going to be wet. I left my heat gun at the beach, and I can't flip back and forth in it. This is my reason why. This is my cover. I love, there's dog hair in here. Okay. And this was a different spine for me, which you fold. This is one piece of paper right here. This, and then it has a little tab, and you fold that over. That's not a good example of it. Okay. But you fold that over, and then you get another piece of paper, and you fold it over, and you glue that little spot on top to each other. This is the cover, so I actually opened this one up. I'm trying to see if there's one that you could see it. Maybe not, because they're all kind of covered up now. But I just took a bunch of scrap paper. Here's one, sort of. There's the piece of paper from here, underneath the white. And I just, this piece of paper was glued on top of it, and it has a little tab under here. And it was folded over. And then blah, 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 blah. You just stack them up. And then you come up with a spine that looks like this. Now, mine is kind of sloppy because I had to add pages because I didn't have enough. And what I might do is get another piece of paper and glue it, or maybe some tape, like as if it were a binding, and put it here to give it a little bit of strength. I don't know. But, okay. The world is your oyster. Put a crown on it. All of this came very organically to my brain, which is kind of like how everything gets in there. It's kind of organic. Sometimes it's good organic. Sometimes it's gone bad. My reason why I made a recipe. This is the flip through. And my reason why I treat it as if it were a recipe. 1 oyster, 1 pinch of strength, 1 crown, 1 soul, 7 notes of music. Mix well. Once mixed, add color and bake until crisp. Voila, the world is your oyster. The need for me to embrace my world as it has been given to me currently, and to create my own happy moments. I needed to create my own happy moments. Apply art to those moments. I'm in charge of my oyster and I choose to add a crown to it. That's kind of like a pep talk to myself. Yeah, the world sucks right now. The American news sucks right now if you're of my feelings. And I needed to do something because I was going down. I was spiraling, literally, after January 20th. I was spiraling. And there were a couple days I had to take off. There were a couple days where I was mad as a hornet. Still mad as a hornet, but being more productive. So, this is one of the scrap pieces of paper I had in here. I didn't do anything to it. This was day one. And all of this came because I wanted to be influenced by this guy. Who, if you've watched all these videos, I'm highly influenced by his method and his sense of color and sense of just go for it attitude. Maybe that's why I like him so much, because he just kind of like, it seems like he's just going for it. And me being untrained, which I really am untrained. I've gone to YouTube University, but otherwise I'm very untrained in art. I kind of just have to go for it. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. He was quite prolific. I don't think I'm nearly that prolific because I do this like an hour in the morning. But I do start my morning every morning, my day every morning here. And that's the best therapy I could come up with. So I picked pictures and colors out of some of the artwork in this book. And it was either a technique he used, a color he used, a shape he used, a phrase he used, a multitude of things he used, blah, 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 blah. And I said, all right, I'm going to replicate that on here. Using scrap paper, using color, using whatever. And then I added an oyster to it because I started this at the beach. So I just added oysters to it. And it kind of became another faction of the challenge. So on this particular page, for whatever reason, I started at the back of the book and worked forward. I don't know why, I just did. So, and all of this stuff, I do know that after a while of doing this kind of mixed media / journaling / Hobonichi / scrapbooking, I started as a very traditional scrapbooker, travel journaler, the whole shebang. I am very content with making my own stuff. I love Ali Edwards. I love Amy Tangerine. I love Bai Bun. Excuse me, I can't talk. What other people? Anything from Ranger. Robin McClendon probably was the most influential on me as far as make your own paper. And I really, my believe it or not, my aesthetic has been pared down completely. I do use a few store-bought things, but it's mostly buy your paint, buy your paper, buy your paintbrushes, buy your markers, buy your Neocolor 2s, your tempera paint sticks, and go for it. And I love the end result much more when I do that. So making these journals and books and whatever, and sketchbooks, I'm creating my own paper. So much so that I might sell it. If I could get the technology in my brain. Anyhow, so, okay, flip through. Oysters and Basquiat, something from Basquiat every day. And this is my oyster. This is the technique I took because one of his pages it almost looked like stitching. And I loved that. And this was a good, wow, splash of color because he definitely was colorful to start off with. Then he had one that said Unbreakable. And I just did a bunch of, and I think he had little dots. So this was my oyster. These are my oysters. And this is about when I made my stamp, my Basquiat stamp that has the oyster on it. He also has a lot of crowns. So I have a lot of crowns showing up too. And that's where the world is your oyster, put a crown on it came from. And so that was just lots of paint and the word Unbreakable. This was one that he had blue paint and he scratched through it. Nope, I take that back. This was one he had tiny little pieces of paper everywhere. And I did that. I painted this blue. And then here's my oyster. There is one that he did blue with scratching through it. That's not it. This is another one where he had little pieces of paper, but he had writing all over it. And I just wrote a bunch of stuff that I needed to get out of my system, and then painted this green, a little black. These are my oysters. They are tip-ins. And there's a couple crowns on here. This is the one where I scratched in, but it really didn't show up, so I wrote with white chalk marker on it. So I kind of messed up the thought process there, but that's okay. This came from a Flow magazine. And then these are all papers that I did at some time or another myself. This was one that he had a chair, and he used a little bit of green also. This paper was from Christmas leftover. I did a chair on a book page, and then I added my oyster here, and there's a green crown made it on here also. This one, okay, the words mind, M-I-N-D, and energy were on his page. He had a huge bright sunshine. So, here's my oyster. Here's my sunshine. Here's my words. This piece of paper that runs through it is the first piece of paper I did when I decided to do this the day before I started. And I just did this white piece of paper from my paint dropping paper and did all kinds of stuff on it, wrote on it, crowned everywhere. And it's gorgeous. In fact, I think it's gorgeous. I think part of it is in here. Yes, it's a huge part right there. I just love that. Just love that. Just gives your heart a little skip in my world. It does. This was one that he had Eiffel Towers in red and black. And then he had these green frogs. And he had some kind of swash of paint for the French flag. So I did that. It was all on a black background with kind of like a washy, chalkboardy look to it. So I did that. This is one of my favorite. I just love it. This was Dos Cabezas. That's the name of his painting. This is Basquiat. That is Andy Warhol. Their heads are oyster shells. And their hair is wacky in this painting. And this is Basquiat's dreadlocks. This is Andy Warhol's white wig, and they had black written over it, but the white really didn't show up. I might go back and add more white. I don't know. And there's crowns made in here too, but this is my version of that. This one, this was one that he painted on a piece of fencing. In the beginning of his career, he didn't have a lot of money, and he was getting trash off the street. This was a piece of fence, and it was slats of wood. So this is the wood, this tan with the slats drawn on it. These are the oysters, the blue. And then he had this weird character that had weird feet. So these are the weird feet. And then I put some crowns in it. This is not my favorite, but that's okay. That's okay. This might be my favorite. This was a disaster. I then painted over it and started over again. And this was the Pez dispenser. That is the iconic like dinosaur with a crown on it that shows in a lot of his references about him. His is a white background. I did purple because that's my favorite. And I added some of the colors that were in that painting. And then I just wrote oyster Pez dispenser. I couldn't get the dinosaur shape right. I couldn't do anything. There's so much texture on here because there's like 2 layers of paper underneath the purple paint. I love it. Love it. This one had a blue and green checkered background. So I did all that. The blue is the oysters. And then I put green Amy Tangerine paint on here. And I added a little bit. Oh, and I drew some more oysters underneath. Added a little bit of art graph, which I got 2 more of these. I got a reddish brown color and a almost black. But I've seen people use them like with wet paintbrushes and use them as a paint dish and draw. So who knows, that might be coming in my world. This one had these colors on it, black, red, and yellow. This looks a lot. Oh, it had this crown on it too, on a piece of yellow paper. But it had these weird white skeleton head shapes, and I chose to make these my oysters. Oh, and it had this grid. I chose to make these oysters in my grid, give them eyeballs because he had eyeballs on his, and use the colors. To me, it looks like ketchup and mustard. But he could have done that too, because New York in the 70s and 80s was not a clean city. And he was quite often on drugs. So he may have been at McDonald's a lot. Who knows? This one I dissected the elements. It had a Thor element. It had this black square. I think Thor was written in a black square. And it had a crown. This is my oyster. I think it had these green swirls. Oh, there was a green vein maybe? I can't remember. But I like this one too. He was heavily influenced by music, by mythology, by anatomy, history. So a lot of that shows up. This one was a disaster too. He had this weird line connected with circles, and I tried to do that. It sort of worked. He had these pink and green colors going on. I used those. This was a jelly plate paper that I had made the book out of. This was onion skin. These are jelly plates, but it's a real shiny, smooth surface. It just didn't work the way I wanted it to. These guys are crazy. This was a piece of paper that he had taken and written all kinds of Greek history. There was one that said all beef. There was all kinds of words written, and then he did stuff over it. So I have the words on here, most of what he wrote. And then it had these weird faces. Mine look a little evil. And it also had the word Edgar. And I wrote that down here because that's my husband's middle name. This one, meet Oyster the Thunderbird. I love this one. It had this weird Thunderbird-shaped bird. And I think a lot of navy blue. I can't remember exactly. But after I started doing this, this was a piece of store-bought paper. That was a journal page, an old antique journal, ledger. And then somebody put black paint over it. It could have been a Ranger product. I'm not sure. I've had it forever. And it was on the floor at the beach. And in my craft room there, I'm like, I don't know where this came from. I might have had it in my Halloween stuff. And it's been on the floor ever since. I don't know. But I cut out my Thunderbird. And then I had this stuff down. I'm like, okay, where's the oyster going to go? So I just named my Thunderbird Oyster. I don't know if it was a Thunderbird. It just looks like one to me. This one, I dissected a bunch of stuff again. I can't remember all of it, but there's my oyster. There's a crown. I can't remember what all this had. I think the color combos were close. I don't even remember what this one was. This one was a green tile that he had found, like tiles glued to a, like, what's the board that you put on your walls? I can't remember what it's called. But anyhow, it's like he found a chunk of somebody demolishing a bathroom and there were green tiles stuck to this board. So there's my green tiles. I painted it green and I cut them all up. And then I combined two paintings with this one. The next one had a black window with a white plane going through. And it had a white border and a yellow border. So these are my windows. There's my plane. There's my oyster. And I have a couple little crowns here too. I kind of like that one. Oh gosh. This was in his head series area. Was this yesterday? Well, yes, it was. Okay, so this was yesterday. And these were some crazy heads he had in a painting, but this one is in the shape of a very fat oyster, but I just did it in a different direction so it stands out a little bit. Put a crown on all of them. These were the colors that he used. And voila, that's how you get a journal. All right, so this is the colors we're using today, the paper, the last page, but we're going to do this head. And I have babbled and babbled and babbled, and we are 23 minutes into this, and I haven't even started. So the first step would be to figure out how to get this color, which I think it's going to be green and black. This is Philadelphia Eagle green. That's why we're doing this page. So here's black. Here's a green. And this is kind of like it says real green. These are just craft paints. Cheap craft paints. And I managed to get my dish here from the beach. Not my heat gun, but my dish. I don't know why I use certain places, but I do. This is a little bit thicker paint. It's a different brand. All right, so now, let's see here. Oh. Nope, that's too dark. Way too dark. I'm going to have to paint something else. Philadelphia green, because... Okay, that's closer. That's closer. We're going to go for it. We're going to make a head. And we're going to do it sideways. The last page is going to be breaking all the rules. We're going to do it perpendicular. This is the oyster shape, because that's what his head looks like. Albeit skinny, but okay. Oh, I forgot I don't have a heat gun. There's our oyster. Now I need some yellow eyes and some black hair. We don't have room for black hair. We might just put black dreadlocks down here. Or whatever this is. But we're going to make room for eyes in this mess here. Kind of looks like an octopus. All right, I got lots of paper, lots of paint left over here. That's all right. We're going to use it. Oh, but I need yellow now. Okay. I'm going to have to use a different paintbrush. I'm going to try to drop in some yellow. Ugh. Oh, my goodness. If I can open this. Maybe we're going to call this Jason. This is Jason Kelsey. Oh, it worked. But now there's a little bit of yellow on the side. I'm just going to add, I'm trying to listen to my husband. I think he's saying the construction crew isn't coming today, which we kind of figured. I just want to add a little bit of yellow. Oh! This might be the best one. No, I got a lot of favorites on this one. Now, there's a lot of white on this paper, and I have the white. I'm not going to add any white in here. It's a pickle with dreadlocks. Oh, but I love it. I think this is a good, happy, it needs a little white in the thing inside him. White. Let's see, do I have white handy? Yes, I do. Now I'm going to have to get out another paintbrush. Let's see if we can just add a little bit of white on this Pickles jersey without mixing it with the green. Maybe a little down here. Oh my God. Is it wrong to like your stuff? Because I really like this one. My pickle with dreadlocks is fantastic. It's the best pickle with dreadlocks I've ever seen. Or squid. I love it. That's the end. Thanks for watching. Thanks for putting up with me and my crazy brain at times. This is the epitome of my crazy brain. A pickle with dreadlocks. Dressed in as a Philadelphia Eagle. Woohoo! Thanks for watching. Bye.